Welcome to another thrilling episode of CrimeWave AI, where we don't just explore mysteries, we take you right into the heart of history's most perplexing enigmas. Get ready to uncover secrets hidden in the shadows, and remember, your insights are part of the journey. What do you think really happened? Stick around because the deeper we dig, the more twisted the truth becomes. Today, we're unraveling one of the most infamous stories in American history, a tale of love, crime, and the relentless pursuit of freedom. This is the story of Bonnie and Clyde. Our story begins in the early 1930s, when America was grappling with the Great Depression. Economic hardship was severe, forcing many into poverty and driving some to desperate measures. Amidst this despair, a young couple emerged whose names would become synonymous with danger, rebellion, and a tragic love story. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow. Bonnie Parker was born on October 1st, 1910, in Rowena, Texas. She was the second of three children and grew up in a stable family until her father passed away when she was 4. After his death, Bonnie's mother moved the family to Cement City, a suburb of Dallas, where they lived in a poor working-class neighborhood. Despite the hardships, Bonnie was a bright and creative young woman, known for her love of literature and poetry. She was petite, standing only 4 feet 11 inches tall, but had a fierce spirit. Bonnie dreamed of a life far beyond the small town she grew up in, perhaps as a famous actress or writer. Clyde Barrow, born a year earlier on March 24, 1909, in Ellis County, Texas, had a different path. He was the 5th of 7 children, and his family was desperately poor, living as sharecroppers. From a young age, Clyde was exposed to the harsh realities of life. The Barrow family eventually moved to West Dallas, a rough neighborhood, in search of better opportunities, but poverty continued to plague them. Clyde's early life was marked by hardship and growing resentment toward the world around him. He was known as a charming and charismatic young man, but he also had a rebellious streak that soon led him down a darker path. The two met in January 1930 through mutual friends, and their connection was immediate. Bonnie was captivated by Clyde's charm and rebellious spirit, while Clyde found in Bonnie a partner who shared his desire to break free from their harsh reality. Their love story was intense, passionate, and, as history would show, dangerous. It wasn't long before Bonnie and Clyde were inseparable, united not just by love, but by a shared ambition to escape the mundane, even if it meant a life of crime. Clyde's criminal activities began before meeting Bonnie, starting with petty thefts and carjackings, but quickly escalating. Initially motivated by a desire to help his impoverished family, Clyde's actions soon evolved into a rebellion against authorities, whom he blamed for his family's struggles. By the time he met Bonnie, Clyde had already served time in prison, where brutal conditions hardened his resolve to fight the system. Bonnie, on the other hand, had no criminal record before meeting Clyde. She was working as a waitress when she crossed paths with the man who would change her life forever. Despite her limited involvement in crime, Bonnie was quickly drawn into Clyde's world. Her love for him was unwavering, and she was willing to follow him, even into a life of crime. Together, they embarked on a 2-year crime spree, leaving a trail of chaos across the Midwest. Their first major robbery, a botched attempt at a hardware store, set the stage for more serious crimes. Over time, their operations became more organized, targeting banks, symbols of the system they believed had failed them. Their notoriety wasn't just due to their crimes, but also their uncanny ability to evade capture. Time and again, they slipped through the fingers of law enforcement, becoming infamous figures, seen by some as rebels, but their actions were far from justifiable. But let's be clear. Bonnie and Clyde were far from heroes. Their actions led to the deaths of at least 9 police officers and several civilians. The image of them as glamorous outlaws often overshadowed the harsh reality of the lives they destroyed. As much as they were portrayed as rebels, their story is also one of violence and tragedy. Their spree of crime was fueled by desperation and a desire to assert their independence, but it came at a great cost. The people Bonnie and Clyde killed were not faceless. They were family members, loved ones, and individuals with their own stories. The couple's use of violence made them feared and notorious. Despite the danger, Bonnie and Clyde continued their spree, moving from town to town, never staying in one place too long. Constantly on the run, their lives were a mix of intense love and growing desperation. The Barrow gang, which formed around them, included several members over time, but Bonnie and Clyde were always at the center. Their exploits were widely reported in the press, often with sensationalized headlines that added to their legend. Although Bonnie was often depicted as merely an accomplice, she was deeply involved in the crimes. She was also caught in a tragic love story, torn between loyalty to Clyde and the increasingly perilous life they led. Despite her active role, Bonnie was frequently portrayed in the media as a victim of circumstance, a young woman led astray by love for a dangerous man. Photographs of her, often showing her with a playful or defiant expression, posing with guns or cigarettes, cemented her status as an icon of rebellious femininity, but also obscured her involvement in serious crimes. Clyde, meanwhile, became increasingly paranoid and violent as the law closed in on them. The pressure of being constantly hunted took its toll, and the once charming young man became more ruthless. The Barrow gang's crimes grew more brazen, and the violence escalated. They were no longer just robbing banks. They were leaving a trail of blood wherever they went. Their journey couldn't last forever. By 1934, law enforcement intensified efforts to capture the duo, and the net was closing in. The public, once fascinated by their exploits, was beginning to turn against them as the body count grew. The press that had once romanticized them now called for their capture, dead or alive. The turning point came in April 1934, when the gang killed two young highway patrolmen near Grapevine, Texas. The murders shocked the nation and galvanized law enforcement. Texas authorities decided that enough was enough. They were going to bring Bonnie and Clyde to justice no matter the cost. They enlisted former Texas Ranger Frank Hamer, a legendary lawman known for his tenacity and skill, to track down the couple and end their reign of terror. Hamer and his team spent weeks following the gang's movements, learning their habits and predicting their next moves. It was a game of cat and mouse, but Hamer was determined not to let them slip away. He knew that Bonnie and Clyde were creatures of habit. They had certain places they liked to go, people they trusted, and routines they followed. It was only a matter of time before they made a mistake. On May 23, 1934, after months of tracking, Hamer and his posse set a trap in Bienville Parish, Louisiana. They had received a tip that Bonnie and Clyde would be traveling through the area, and they decided to lay in wait along a remote stretch of road. The officers, hiding in the bushes, knew that Bonnie and Clyde would pass through. They waited patiently, guns at the ready, knowing this could be their only chance. As the couple approached in their stolen Ford V8, the officers opened fire, unleashing a hail of bullets. The barrage was relentless, designed to ensure that neither Bonnie nor Clyde would survive. In mere seconds, it was over. Bonnie and Clyde, who had evaded capture for so long, were killed instantly. They were just 23 and 24 years old. The deaths of Bonnie and Clyde marked the end of their crime spree, but their legacy was just beginning. Their story was quickly sensationalized, and they became legends, immortalized in newspapers, books, and films. The 1967 movie Bonnie and Clyde, starring Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty, further cemented their status as cultural icons. The film depicted them as tragic, romantic outlaws, misunderstood by society and doomed by their own love. This portrayal resonated with audiences, particularly during the turbulent 1960s, when many young people were questioning authority and rebelling against societal norms. But beyond the glamour and myth lies the true story, a tale of two young people, driven by love and desperation, who chose a path that led them to a tragic end. Their lives remind us of the dangers of romanticizing crime and the real human costs behind the legends that history sometimes creates. The people Bonnie and Clyde killed were not faceless. They were fathers, sons, husbands, and brothers. The violence that marked their journey left lasting scars on many families, a reality often overshadowed by the romanticized versions of their story. In the years since their deaths, Bonnie and Clyde have become symbols of youthful rebellion, but they are also reminders of how easily the line between right and wrong can become blurred. They were not heroes, but neither were they entirely villains. They were products of their time, shaped by poverty, desperation, and a desire for something more than the lives they had been given. Their story is a complex one, filled with contradictions, and it continues to captivate because it speaks to the darker side of the human experience. In the end, Bonnie and Clyde's story is a cautionary tale. It's a reminder that while their lives may have been filled with excitement and passion, the choices they made led to destruction. Not just of their own lives, but of many others as well. Their legacy is one of both fascination and sorrow, a testament to the power of love and the dangers of letting it lead us astray. As we reflect on their legacy, it's important to remember the lessons their story teaches, about the consequences of our choices, the complexities of human nature, and the often blurred lines between right and wrong. In a world where crime and rebellion can sometimes be glamorized, Bonnie and Clyde's story serves as a reminder that the reality of such a life is far from romantic. Thank you for joining us on this journey. At CrimeWave AI, we bring you stories that challenge and captivate the mind. If this intrigued you, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more. Together, we'll continue exploring the darkest corners of the human experience, seeking the truth behind every mystery. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this case? Share your insights in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and above all, stay safe.